Welcome to this short video leading Vajrasati teacher trainees and teachers through a practice of Pranayama, a basic Rechaka Puraka, into deep inhalation, extended exhalation, into Viloma. This practice can be broken down into any of the three stages just mentioned. Rechaka Puraka, deep inhalation, deep exhalation, Viloma individually, or as we're going to do it here, one after the other. I would probably take longer than we're going to take on each series myself, but let's see how it works out for you. First thing is to get yourself in position, and here is a fantastic Katrine Morecambe walking into shot. So obviously the first thing you need to do is make sure your lift is in the right place, buttocks tucked under, stretch the lower back, quadratus lumborum and so on. All of the lower back and none of the back of the pelvis on the support. The head support should tilt the head towards the chest, and the chest should be, as it were, tilted towards the head. So we form this mild Jalandhara Bandha and this mild Uddiyana Bandha. The chest is open, lower back is long. If you have any problems with the lower back, you can put more support underneath the bum, but then you'll need to raise the legs up, for instance, on a chair or a couple of bolsters, one on top of the other, and perhaps a support for under the heels. Your basic position is where it starts, and in a sense, the whole practice revolves around the basic position. If the position's right, the pranayama will follow naturally, and the energy will start to flow. Take a few moments just laying here, letting the body settle, letting the nadi open. Studying the breath and its relationship to the release of muscle tension. How the breath starts to flow more easily as you relax, as the mind settles, as the body releases, which we describe with the metaphor of nadi, the energy channels. Let the eyes relax in the sockets, the jaw releases, forehead becomes smooth and soft, the head becomes given, arms totally release, further contributing to the stretch of the pectoralis, making more room therefore for the sternum to be able to lift towards the chin spontaneously, which begins our Puraka, Rechaka, inhalation, exhalation, which of course has been coming and going the whole time. Here we're studying the way it feels in relationship to the mind, in relationship to the body, in relationship to the principle of flow. As the breaths come in, visually feel the nadis opening like fern leaves in the spring, unfurling, uncurling, opening up to the very edges of the body, the fingertips, the toe tips. Every part of the body through the sacral plexus, brachial plexus, solar plexus. As you study, absorb yourself in the breath. The nadi continues to open, the body continues to soften. This sense of expanding. At a certain point, it becomes natural as the nadis open and unblock for the breath to find more space, and so it does. the inhalations spontaneously become deeper. And because this changes the shape of the chest, in other words, the breastbone becomes more lifted, the intercostal muscles are more expanded, more open. It also changes the exhalation too. In other words, the exhalation is slowed down. This is because the chest is kept in the position of inhale to some extent as you exhale, the anatomical position. So allowing the exploration of deep inhale, softening every skin cell, every nerve cell, every muscle cell, every blood vessel, as the air is coming in direct response to the air coming in. As you're breathing in, if you can't soften anymore, the jaw, the temples, the forehead, the corners of the chest, then that heralds the beginning of the exhalation. As you're exhaling, a little grip on the diaphragm, which you can subtly change, helps the exhalation come out at a pace that's appropriate, that doesn't suddenly drop the pressure in the nadi system, but neither increases the pressure beyond what is peaceful, what is comfortable. Every new inhalation is a new opportunity to soften, to release, to relax every single cell that comes into contact with the incoming prana that rides on the back of the incoming breath. Every exhalation, opportunity to explore the subtlety of release, letting the air come out slowly, but if you feel tense, let it out a little quicker. If that tension goes, slow it down again, so that you maintain a sort of buoyant pressure in the nadi system. But don't over pressurize, don't make yourself tense in any sense. It's vital that no tension arises whatsoever. A few more rounds of deep inhalation, as in the sentence, I feel it deeply. Extended exhalation, which I call cherished exhale. The body actively releases in contact with the incoming breath. It completely surrenders immediately and totally when the incoming prana touches any part of the body. That part releases totally, completely. Allow this practice, when it feels right, to migrate into viloma, the interrupted inhalation with a deep exhalation, as we have been already doing. Interruptions, the steps or stages, can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little steps with a micro pause of a second, perhaps 2, but often 2 is too much. Taking the little step, abiding in the pause, taking the next little step, abiding in the pause, taking the next little step, abiding in the pause. Again, the same principle, no pressure building. So keep relaxing as you're taking the steps. If you can't relax anymore, that's the end of the steps, whether you've reached 2, 3, or whatever, 4, doesn't matter. We're not looking to progress from, say, 2 to 3 to 4. It may be the first has 4 steps and the second has 2. We're looking to know prana and respond directly, to develop intimacy, to develop identity as prana. Remember to use the diaphragm, a subtle grip as you're exhaling. A total grip, of course, means the exhale is stopped. So you can experiment between total release, total grip, and all the shades of grey in between that allow the flow, the pranic stream, like a flow of particles, to come out appropriately to your pranic system. Releasing if you feel too tense, watching out not to let the air just suddenly fall out of you so that the aliveness in the pranic system doesn't collapse, the positive pressure in the system. A few rounds in your own time. Viloma, interrupted inhalation, little steps. Viloma means against the natural order, against the hair. Ujjayi can be added at any of these stages, which is a sort of narrowing feeling of the throat, makes the air into a sort of more narrow stream, a hissing sound, like a series of S's on the way in, more aspirate, more open on the way out, like a series of H's. But still these interrupted inhalations with a deep, extended, intimate, cherished exhalation. Brain stays soft, temples stay soft, corners of the chest soft, arms heavy, legs heavy. Last round, after the round you're on, Viloma inhalation, extended exhalation with Ujjayi if you're comfortable with that. Remember, it intensifies what you're doing, so intensify your relaxation. After that final round, we just return to Rejaka-Puraka, the natural flowing of exhalation and inhalation, with this acute and beautiful sense of intimacy with the pranic system, the relationship between the flow of breath, the flow of the mind, the flow of the body, the flow of the universe. One can stay in this stage as long as one likes. In this stage, of course, in many ways, is the whole purpose of the practice, to dwell as prana, a more subtle experience of oneself than dwelling as one's body or one's mind, or even as one's things. But here to dwell as prana, which is the transpersonal principle. When ready, one will bend one's legs. The feet will come onto the floor. with the bent leg position. A little tuck under may happen of the buttocks. Perhaps even some spontaneous deep breath flows. Again, this is a nice stage to stay at. Don't forget those students who might get tense or tight in the back can have had and can even have at this stage a block under the pelvis which raises up the floor as it were, but the legs also should be supported if that's the case. So the legs will be on a chair or bolsters and the heels will be supported too. They're not just hanging as it were in space if your legs are over a bolster. We then come up by rolling to the side, one side or the other, very careful not to disturb ourselves. We quietly, so as not to disturb ourselves, again remove our lift except for the head support. We then lay in Shavasana, also known as Mritasana, corpse pose, or literally dead pose as Mritasana. As you can see, a bolster can be taken, often very nice to do that, or two bolsters as I mentioned before, one on top of the other. Shoulder blades are tucked under, the head support must be there still after Pranayama for everyone, no exceptions to that, so that this mild Jalandhara Bandha is retained. One rests in Shavasana while the energy distributes and digests into every cell, whether it be around the pelvic floor, the foot arches, the lower tummy, in between the scapula, across the chest, the back of the wrists, the tip of the fingers, the nape of the neck, the chakras in the throat, forehead, chest, belly, lower belly, pelvic floor. Everything soft, even the scalp. Resting as prana, feeling the entire body and the prana around the body and the transpersonal field which the wider field around the body connects to. So we know our body in some senses ends at the skin, but we can sense the body beyond the skin, of course. There's scientific research to back this up. There's a field of awareness all the way around the body, but that field doesn't sit in a vacuum, but constantly imports and exports from and to the wider field. Each being a node, exporting, importing, like so many jewels in a net, known as Indra's net, infinitely spread out without end. Transpersonal, non-isolated, unlimited, causal chains, a dance without a dancer. Perhaps clearer, a dance without an individual separate dancer, but that all are the dance, all are the dancer. In your own time, coming round. Investigative movements, fingers, toes, arms or legs. And when you feel ready, the legs will bend and go onto the bolster if you have a bolster, or straight onto the floor otherwise. The buttocks will tuck under, a deep breath no doubt spontaneously will come. And when ready, roll onto one or the other side, pausing there. Bring the feet forwards and the knees up so that your feet no longer have contact with the bolster. In your own time, roll to the other side. And slowly coming round, stretching out arms, legs, rubbing eyes or running hands through the hair, whatever feels right. And coming up easily from the side. I'll be recording more of these Pranayama videos for you. Om Ahum.